Super tough day for me, not going to lie to you, on a couple different accounts, but the main thing we're going to talk about here is something I didn't even know about until 5 minutes ago. Jordan Addison, my most drafted player this year, was arrested on suspicion of drunk driving after being caught asleep at the wheel near LAX. Makes a horrible day for me, just a little bit worse. We'll talk about exactly what this means, where he should be going. First, let's go ahead. I guess let's hop into a fantasy football draft. $5 buy-in, $1 million prize pool, $200,000 for first place. So let's go ahead and let's get in here, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the thing is, as we go ahead and look at the Jordan Addison situation, one, I want to reiterate, he is my most drafted player at the moment. I think he's a phenomenal price tag at wide receiver 39, or at least was a great price at wide receiver 39. Now we have to reevaluate. If you go back to what happened last offseason, Jordan Addison, I believe, got pulled over and maybe arrested for driving like 140 miles per hour. Let me pull this up on Twitter and see if I can get the exact number. Maybe it was like 120 and I'm pulling out 140 out of my butt here, but let me see if we can find anything with Addison, because this is his second time doing this. He got away with it with the first time his rookie season. Can y'all please remind me, how fast was he going? Yep, just found it. Jordan Addison being stopped for going 85 over the speed limit. Addison was doing 140 in a 55 miles per hour zone. Addison was driving a Lamborghini Super Sport SUV. Don't really care. So Addison has proved himself that he is a dummy, in the nicest way you could possibly say it. Couple different things here. One, we need to mention that it is the dumbest thing possible to ever drink and drive in the year 2024 when you have Uber. Super dumb for literally any person on the planet, right? I'm a sober person, so maybe it's a little bit easier for me to say, but even when I would drink, I understood, okay, if I'm going out tonight, if I'm going to have more than one drink, I probably should not have my car there, and I probably should just Uber home. Everybody understands that. But my thing is, and maybe this is a skewed perception for me, and I maybe need to stay in my lane here, but if you're a professional athlete on your rookie contract, you're getting paid millions of dollars, and you're going to be up for like a $100 million deal, like what you saw with Justin Jefferson, if you absolutely crush and everything goes right. If you're Rashee Rice, if you're Jordan Addison, if you're these guys, why are you not just sober? What do you need to be drinking for? Being in the best possible shape ever is literally what your job is. And I know I need to stay in my lanes probably because I'm having a pissy day, so I'm going to be ranting during this live stream anyway. But my thought process is, can you not just not drink until maybe, I don't know, you're 30 and you've made $100 million? Now, the question is, what happens from here for Jordan Addison? This is a wide receiver that did not see the suspension last season when he was arrested going 140. Second time it happens, you'd imagine, and of course, we are speaking way too early here. Going back to when this broke 12 minutes ago, right? So you're getting my initial gut reaction. And like I said, I'm already having the worst freaking day possible. So you probably don't want to be listening to me right now. I'm on full tilt. I don't even know what to say. Please spam the chat. Let me know. How many games do you think Jordan Addison misses? Because I don't think there's a way he gets out of missing games if he was indeed truly arrested for drinking and driving, which looks to be the case. I don't want to say for sure. It broke 12 minutes ago. I literally just saw y'all talking about it in the chat, and I pulled it up on Twitter. We got 0 for 2 max, 6 to 7, 7, 3 to 4 for 6 games, 4 to 6. I'm probably with Teresa here. I'm probably on the 3 to 4 train. We're going to go ahead. We're going to take Debo at 22. And if he's suspended 3 to 4 games, first thing he can say is he is for sure someone. Let's look at his ADP. And of course, we're going to have the decision. Do we draft him at pick 70? Which before this news, I'm drafting him at pick 70 every day of the week. Do we draft him at 75? Which before the news, oh my gosh, I'm sending up a prayer that he falls to me at 75. And I'm doing a little dance after he does. The answer to that question is probably not. We'll look at the receivers that are going to be in that range. But let's just go ahead and let's pull up ADP right now. This is going to be brutal. I've drafted so much Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison, wide receiver 39. Raymond just says Rome. Completely understand where you're coming from, my friend. I mean, if y'all don't know, we made the video previously saying that you should be drafting Jordan Addison over Rome Odunze. I am very sorry. I apologize sincerely that I did not know that Addison was going to drink and drive or do something reckless again. We probably should have taken it into account. But of course, now you go Rome over Addison easily. Rice was going right after him. Rice with his own possible suspension. The difference between the two is you at least have a great quarterback in Kansas City. So I think you go Rice over Addison. DeAndre Hopkins versus Addison. Probably going Hopkins. Ladd versus Addison. Probably going to go ahead and take Ladd. Christian Watson versus Addison. Probably going to go Christian Watson. Brian Thomas. Give me Brian Thomas. I think Jordan Addison probably falls down to the Keon Coleman, Jamison Williams range. Well, we'll see what happens. Obviously, I'm just kind of guessing here, but like I was literally, thank God this news just broke today and not tomorrow, because I was just about to record a year 2 wide receiver video, and I was just about to pound the table again for everybody to draft Addison at wide receiver 39. But I don't know. Maserati Masi, thank you for coming out. Joining us in the chat says 917 in drafts before training camp. Let's hope for no ACLs. We're hoping for no ACLs, my friend. This obviously isn't as bad as like an Addison torn ACL. Thank God he was just rested and it wasn't a Henry Ruggs situation, of course. Okay. M1 Chase is so stupid that his job is to stay healthy and his job is to be responsible with his body. That's my thing. Am I unreasonable to say that if you are, especially wide receiver, where you're seeing these guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown, like Justin Jefferson get paid? I mean, if you can rise to the cream of the crop, you can make $100 million. Am I unreasonable to say that just be sober? Do it for 4 years of your life. Don't be hungover the next morning. Get up, be able to go to practice. Be able to get up and go to the weight room. How hard is it? Okay. We're going to move this around. We will take Travis Etienne. I'm just in shock here. So one thing is we have Achane, we have Tyreek on the same builds. Obviously with Achane, with Tyreek, we're most likely going to be looking at Tua a little later on and just going all in on this Dolphins offense. The Dolphins currently are projected to be the 4th highest scoring offense in the NFL this season, which is exciting. Jayan says we own him in one league only from a dynasty perspective. Dynasty don't have him too much. Best ball, it's really tough. Douglas says, or just pay a damn driver. I mean, that goes without even being said. It's very clear at this point that you should be able to just go through and afford to take an Uber. And I'm sure, I would be surprised if this wasn't the case. I'm sure the Vikings and or the NFL have some kind of partnership where it's, I would imagine, and of course I'm wrong. I could be wrong. But how crazy would it be if these guys didn't just have someone on call? The Minnesota Vikings should have 5 guys on payroll where every single night their job is to just be there in case anything goes wrong. Addison knows this guy's number. Addison's too drunk. He doesn't know what's going on. All I got to do is call Johnny. Johnny's going to get me an Uber, and Johnny is going to take me where I need to go. I don't know. Grant says they definitely have someone on call. I would assume that they have someone on call. It's like billion-dollar organizations. But like I said, having a horrible day. Addison's my most drafted player. This is just kicking the nuts to what already was a train wreck. So maybe I'm just freaking out for nothing. Now, before I say anything else stupid, I will remind you, just in case if you don't know what we're doing here, we are drafting on Underdog Fantasy. This is where I draft every single night on the live stream. I've done this every single day for years. They're best ball drafts, so no time commitment at all during the season. It's how I won $150,000 in Underdog drafts 2 years ago. And of course, you want to hop in and draft with us. Now is the perfect time to do so because they have the $5 per puppy tournaments out right now. And this would be the best tournament for you to get in if you are new to Underdog Fantasy. And also, if you were to use code FLOCK with the link in the description, the link in the comment section, the link in the live chat, any of those, if you use code FLOCK, you're going to get my 2024 Fantasy Football Draft Guide. You'll get my 2024 Fantasy Football Rankings. And you will get a 50% deposit bonus up to $250. Last but not least, now is also a great time to get on Underdog because they have a Gunnar Henderson more than less than half a total home run for the home run derby. Don't know much about baseball, but I can pretty much tell you that that guy's going to at least hit one home run in the derby. But BP says literally just have a corporate Uber account and let them all use it. I would assume that they already have that. That's like step one. I'm thinking you should also just have a guy that like the glue guy. Anything goes wrong, all you got to do is call this number. That's all you have to remember. Okay. Drew says you're going to be able to take Addison here at 75 if you want. Probably won't want to. I'm definitely not taking Addison at 70. We'll see what happens at 75. And Teresa says fast car and feels invincible, bottom line. I could also be a little bit biased because my car has a max speed. And it's going to be a super unique team. I actually really like this build so far. I drive a 2013 Jeep. It's over 10 years old. On the speedometer, it only goes to 100 miles an hour. If I get anywhere like past 70 miles an hour driving on the highway, the wind starts taking it. So, yeah, I'm very biased. I've never had a car where I'm consistently driving fast. I've never been interested in a car like that either. So maybe I just don't get it. Maybe I'm not cool enough to go get hammered. Maybe I'm not cool enough to drive a Lamborghini at 140 miles per hour, which I get it. I understand. I'm boring. I spend every night drafting fantasy football teams. I get it. I'm a boring, calm guy. But, yeah. Jayan says Mason lies. He's a Lambo. I mean, it's a Ferrari, but we don't need to focus in too much on the specifics, my friend. But we're going to go ahead. We are going to take Brian Thomas. We know we need a wide receiver. Brian Thomas should have better quarterback play than Jordan Addison. And now we can't use the argument, oh, well, Brian Thomas is going to start slow for the season, given that he's a rookie, so maybe we go with the Addison points right away. Hell, Jordan Addison may not even play the beginning of the season. So we're going to go Brian Thomas. I actually don't mind this team at all. I think we've set ourselves up with a really interesting Tua double stack, set ourselves up with a really interesting Purdy double stack, and then we'll be able to play around with it. Okay. Gary says, Addison's NFL standing is in doubt, but he could have a great future now. That is a good point. I mean, we've seen before professional athletes play both football and baseball. Maybe this is a similar story here with Jordan Addison. Maybe it's just, yeah, I mean, I'm good at football. I don't really like football, though. What I dream to be is a NASCAR driver. I mean, you've heard like the stereotypical thing from like rappers is all rappers want to be athletes. All athletes want to be rappers, vice versa. Hope I'm not saying anything I shouldn't be. But I've definitely heard that in rap songs before. Maybe Jordan Addison doesn't want to be a musician. And instead, maybe he wants to be a NASCAR driver. Vinny says, I couldn't help myself. Had to take Addison at 74 just now. Okay, so Vinny's going Addison 74. Here in this draft, Addison goes 79. The thing is, too, I mean, we've seen time and time again, these wide receivers do reckless things. And as long as it's not on camera, it doesn't matter. The only reason I'm like extra frustrated with it being Addison, and the only reason I'm like for sure not taking him over someone like Brian Thomas right now is it's Addison's second instance of this. So maybe strike 2 is a little bit different than strike 1, where Pierce at the moment, strike 1 from an NFL perspective is just legitimately, we are going to ignore this and hope it just goes away. That's what the NFL did with Olave. That's what the NFL did with Addison last year. Pierce, maybe, just maybe they're doing it with Rashee Rice. But I'd assume, like, and also the second time you do something, how often are you going to be doing something for a third time? And is that someone do I even want them on my fantasy team? We're going to go ahead. We will take Courtland Sutton. Actually, we have not had that video come out just yet. I recorded the video yesterday. Should be out very soon. But we talk about Sutton in depth. I don't think Sutton has the upside to be like a top 20 wide receiver this year. It's probably just not in the cards for him given this offense. But here on Underdog, you draft a wide receiver 50. They turn out to be the wide receiver 30. It's a great pick. We can roll with it. And then obviously, tight end's not in play for us when we already have Andrews and we already have Kittle. Running backs, we should have some other options coming back around to us. And Sutton's kind of like one of the last receivers in this tier. Dak Prescott here probably doesn't make too much sense. If we really wanted to go with Cooks later on, we could. I don't want to go with Mostert, already having both Achane and Tyreek. At least not at this price point. I think we're going to go ahead. We will take Tyler Lockett at 99. Let's do it. And so far, this team, wide receiver, we have Tyreek, Debo, Brian Thomas, Courtland Sutton, Tyler Lockett. Running back, we have Achane and Travis Etienne. And we are going to go with the bully tight end approach with Mark Andrews, pick 51, George Kittle, pick 70. In the past, I've been very much against bully tight end, where people try to go like Kelsey round 1, then Pitts round 3. I think it's kind of ludicrous with that kind of draft capital. But here, given the fact that elite level tight ends are so cheap this season, I think you can honestly maybe get away with it. Okay. Berger says, who's your third wide receiver for Minnesota? What's funny is Minnesota no longer has Osborne. Minnesota may not have TJ Hawkinson for the beginning of the season. So let's go ahead and let's pull up this Minnesota Vikings depth chart. The Vikings, Brandon Powell. Then you have Trent Sherfield, Jalen Naylor, and Lucky Jackson. Lucky Jackson, it may be your lucky day because you may actually be playing snaps. Yeah. Pow. Hardnell says N'Keal Harry. Actually, I believe Jalen Reagor. Obviously, no. Have I not said this right in the past, my friend? I don't want to re-say it out loud because maybe I'm gonna butcher it the second time. But please let me know in the live chat, how is it pronounced? Adrian says very interesting draft. I actually really like it. If we get Purdy and Tua at values later on, I think it'll be solid. And I know this is random, but seeing the Geico little lizard commercials typically really annoy me. I think that's not an uncommon thing. I think most people are going to have that take. But the Geico commercials this year were pretty damn good. Like, especially the college football ones where, like, they were doing, like, college football game day or something. It was, like, obviously the pregame show, 5 people on, and it's, like, the lizard doing, like, the worm and stuff. Pretty good. Zachary says, does Jefferson rise to top 3 with target volume? The thing with Jefferson is he was going to get the volume and the target share regardless. The only concern that you have with Jefferson is strictly based off offensive limitations. So I don't know. Good question. Yeah, James says Purdy smoked. I have no idea who took Purdy here. The team that took Purdy didn't really have a reason to. They had no Niners. Maybe they're going to target Sticky Ricky later on. They go Purdy 110 before ADP. Lawrence goes 2, which is a little bit frustrating because obviously with this team having... And then we're going to go Myers and then 2 on the way back around. But with this team having Brian Thomas, Lawrence was kind of like our backup plan there at quarterback. I think we are going to have to go Tua here at 123, especially when we whiff on Brock Purdy for this build. Let's get ready. Zylan says, is Jefferson better with Darnold or McCarthy? I have no idea, my friend. We'll figure it out. Okay, so Burger. Have I not said that in the past? I mean, I would assume the thing is, if you're looking at what Addison's better with, either Donald or McCarthy, we can say that maybe the median projection is better if you have Sam Darnold in there. Like maybe the floor is a little bit higher, but I would say the ceiling's significantly lower. And if you're drafting that guy in round 1, you kind of need to be drafting him based off the ceiling projection. I'd make the argument almost with any guy in fantasy. So like if McCarthy was not there, in full transparency, I have no idea if McCarthy's going to be any good or not. Hopefully he is. I mean, I'm drafting a decent amount of Hawkins at Best Ball Mania. I was drafting a lot of Addison. And it's not like I'm fading Jefferson at ADP, so I'm really hoping McCarthy's good. But if McCarthy wasn't there, which I don't know if he's going to be any good or not, you would for sure have to rank these guys lower. Because the thing about Darnold and McCarthy being there is Darnold most likely very bad. Possibly just getting into a new situation. Possibly he's decent. We'll see. But more likely than not, Darnold is bad. McCarthy, I don't know. Call it a coin flip. But at least we have that backup coin flip if Darnold isn't able to turn it around. Chris says, honestly, Jefferson could be getting triple teamed right now. Aaron Jones should be the one going up. I don't know. If anything, I would say it depends, because I want to say Hawkinson's the guy that is benefited, but if Hawkinson misses the beginning of the season anyway with his injury, it may line up in a way that this negatively impacts the overall offense. Say if Addison comes back week 5, Hawkinson comes back week 5, it really may not have any actionable takes outside of Jordan Addison just got a lot less appealing. Douglas says, is Darnold draftable for you, Mason? No, especially not in underdog drafts, just strictly because we are drafting based off weeks 15, 16, 17 points a lot of the times, depending on the tournament contest that you're in. And even if Darnold starts like the first 10 weeks of the season, if McCarthy's in there by the time he gets to weeks 15, 16, 17, like I'm not wanting to have drafted Darnold on my team. So right now, running back, we have Achane, ETN. Wide receiver, we have Tyreek, Debo, Brian Thomas, Sutton, Tyler Lockett, Jacoby Myers. Quarterback, we have Tua, double stacked with Achane and Tyreek. Tight end, we have Mark Andrews and George Kittle. Gary says, saw a guy grab Raheem at the 301. Shocked the hell out of me. I wonder if he queued up Raheem and then it accidentally just went down. Okay, poll goes, we're in a great spot to take a running back here. I don't want to say who are targeting until we're on the clock. I think the majority of y'all know who we are targeting, and we get him perfect. We end up getting Nick Chubb here. Not drafting Nick Chubb in any of the eliminator style contests on Underdog, but specifically the tournaments where we are trying to chase weeks 15, 16, 17. Like, consider the fact here that it's a $5 buy-in, $200,000 for first place. I'm trying to have the highest ceiling I can for those 3 weeks. I think Nick Chubb could have a pretty high ceiling for that stretch. Now, obviously, we're not looking at tight end. Running back still for sure in play. We're going to go Ty Chandler. Actually thinking about making a video specifically regarding running backs that have declined for 3 straight seasons now. The reason I had this idea is I'm doing all the running back write-ups for the draft guide at the moment, and we're sitting there looking at guys like Najee Harris, Derrick Henry, Aaron Jones, Joe Mixon. Like, oh, okay, yeah, they've gotten worse every year for the past 3 seasons. They're all older. What makes us think that they're going to turn it around and all of a sudden get better? Obviously, every running back's very different based off their personal context. We'll probably make an entire video from it, but yeah, that's what we're thinking right now. And I think, wouldn't it be the worst idea in the world to be underweight Aaron Jones? And Ryan, please don't copy and paste the same question over and over again. I'm not going to answer a copy and paste the question. And yes, we will fire up another draft at 300 likes. NRG, happy to see you, my guy. Hope you're doing well. Y'all don't know, NRG has been with us for a very long time. He's been crushing me in the high stakes drafts for years. But anyway, he's at pick 6. Starts it off with St. Brown, Waddle, Neighbors. I personally am a big Neighbors. I am against Neighbors at ADP in a big time way this year. I'd probably rather have DJ Moore over Malik Neighbors. have a video coming out why. I think the data is very interesting behind it, to be honest. Higgins at 43 makes sense. Keenan at 54. In comparison to the other guys in this range, strong. I'd probably go White over Walker, but then Montgomery. So, I mean, it's interesting. Definitely an interesting build. We get the Caleb super value with the double stack there with Keenan and Kmet. Okay. But, oh my gosh, I did not expect us to hit 300 likes today on the stream, but it looks like it may be happening. Jason says, what's the minimum number of running back or receiver you go with? Minimum is a difficult question to answer because the absolute minimum of a position that you can have here, running back is 4, receivers probably 6. But the only way I'm only drafting 4 running backs is if I essentially draft like 2 running backs inside the first 3 rounds and 4 running backs inside the first 5. Like I pretty much have to start my draft running back, receiver, running back, and then I'm only drafting 4. In terms of the 6 wide receivers, very similar. I need to have like 6 receivers through the first 7 rounds if I'm going to stop at 6. Or 6 receivers maybe through the first 8 rounds. So more likely than not, I'm drafting 5 running backs. Like on this team here, I'll be drafting 5 running backs. And more likely than not, I'm drafting at least 7 receivers. Okay. Okay, I'll just say it was a very rough day. I'll leave it at that, but about the roughest day as days get. Here's interesting because if you look, I think running back's probably the best player on the board, but we should have some of them make it back to us. You know what? Doesn't really matter. I think we should go ahead. I think we should take Chubb Hubbard. Because we have Chubb. Having Hubbard makes a lot of sense, given the fact that we're really not expecting too many Nick Chubb points at the beginning of the season. But the reason we're drafting Chubb, obviously, is for weeks 15, 16, 17, hoping that he can give us the ceiling that we need then. And Chuba's kind of like the opposite of that. So Chuba hopefully can cover the points that we need at the beginning of the year. And even if Brooks takes over at the end of the season, we'd still potentially get by. Now, looking at other potential quarterbacks that we could draft. Let's look at these options. Tyreek, we already have Tua. Debo, Purdy's already off the board. Brian Thomas, Lawrence is already off the board. Lockett, Geno's already off the board. Sutton, we could go Bo Nix later on, and I'm not drafting a Raiders quarterback. So here, we are going to actually take Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers is a tough pick to make, given the fact that we don't have a stack, which obviously not ideal. If you are drafting Rodgers, quarterback that's going to run the ball, typically you want Garrett Wilson. Typically you want Breece Hall. Typically you want Mike Williams. And what makes this Rodgers pick probably even a little bit worse is the fact that we don't have the chance to take Tyler Conklin later on because we already have our 2 tight ends. So really the only shot that we get at an Aaron Rodgers stack is if Malachi Corley falls to us at pick 190. Now, the good news is Malachi Corley has been falling a ton in these drafts as of late. I do think that there's a possibility it happens. And if we're looking at Rodgers, we can maybe say, oh, okay, well, the raw amount of points that he's going to give us going back-to-back with Will Levis, even if we were to just say go with Tua stacked up with Tyreek and Achane and then Bo Nix paired up with Sutton, maybe Rodgers' regular season points get us to the playoff tournament, and then our stacks hit in the playoff tournament with Tua and Nix, and we don't need to see Rodgers in our lineup. So definitely never taking an unstacked Rodgers because we're excited about it, but we get boxed out of our other quarterbacks. Rodgers falls here. How many picks past ADP? About 15 picks past ADP, so we'll take it. But we're definitely going to be drafting 3 QBs here. And yes, if y'all want another draft, make sure you go ahead and hit that like button. Kevin says, I got Rodgers at 192 with Mike and Mal. Oh, 100%. Obviously, Rodgers ADP like 168. 192 is strong. Hartnell says, Mason, thoughts on Higgins with the news? 2-3 turn player, in my opinion. Like I said, I've had a tough day. I have not been online at all. I have no idea what the T. Higgins news is. Did he get an extension? And anytime you do open up Twitter, it's just Trump stuff, which as it probably should be. Ian Rappaport says, it has appeared evident for some time, but for clarity. The Bengals and star wide receiver T. Higgins will not do an extension by Monday's deadline. He's signed the franchise tag. He'll play on it and be one of the top free agents in the 2025 season. Definitely good news for Higgins. You definitely want T. Higgins in Cincinnati. Like, the main concern that you would have for Higgins is he all of a sudden gets traded to Carolina, and then you're like, oh my gosh, he is now wide receiver 33 or whatever. But yeah, if he's playing on the franchise tag, pretty good for him. And how much is the franchise tag for a receiver? The thing with Higgins, too, is, I mean, you've been hurt back-to-back years. It's not like you've been incredible. So it almost makes sense to just play on the franchise tag, actually prove that you're worth the money. Okay, we're going to go with 2 more receivers and a quarterback. Our quarterback, more likely than not, is going to be Bo Nix. Our receivers here, we could get a little bit interesting. We could go like Drake May and then take Kendrick Bourne in the last round. I don't know if that'd be my favorite thing to do, however. How many rookies do we have? We just have 1 rookie receiver. We're going to go Darius Slayton here at 190. Don't ask me why. Don't want to give you an answer on why. The true answer is we need a receiver. I have no idea who to take. They're all bumps. Probably not going to do anything, but I don't know who will in this range. Okay. Let's go. Ethan says, finished the triathlon this morning. Had a blast. Cooked my legs on the bike. Run was brutal. That is awesome, my friend. Congrats. Can everybody spam the chat? Congrats, Ethan. Super happy for you, my guy. Okay, we'll go ahead. We will take Bo Nix here. 195. And can someone let me know, have we hit 300 likes on the stream? Or are we firing up another draft after this? Actually, we have hit 300 likes. So I'm going to show you what we have right now with this roster. Going to let you know we're taking a receiver in round 18. So here it is. Actually, let me go through it because I think it's interesting. The offenses we're in on: Miami with Tyreek, Achane, Tua. The Niners with Debo Kittle. This is a monstrous team if Ayuk gets traded. The Jags with ETN, Brian Thomas. The Broncos with Sutton, Bo Nix. Very well-balanced team. 3-5. How many receivers? 7? Oh, I'm sorry. 8 receivers when it's all said and done. But let's go ahead. Let's hop into another draft. We're going to be getting into the Fast Puppy $5 buy-in, $1 million prize pool, $200,000 for first, $100,000 for second. But let's get in here. Yeah, that last team, honestly, I think it would be super solid if you do get an Ayuk trade, which not necessarily something we're expecting, but all right, we're here at pick 12. So where we would potentially be in a little bit of a pickle when it comes to Jordan Addison is if Addison were to make it to us at 84. If Addison makes it to us at 84, do we take Jordan Addison? I don't know the correct answer to that question, but we'll find out. Now, Detroit Fitness Nerd says, you're taking Raheem Mostert going for 18 touchdowns here in the regular season last year when a lot of drafts would change going in the second round. Are you saying that there are other drafts like on ESPN and stuff where Mostert goes round 2? Raheem Mostert's going to be 32 years old this year. They just added Jalen Wright. You have Achane going into year 2, and Raheem Mostert doesn't catch the ball at all. So obviously, insane touchdown season last year, and maybe I'm just salty because I didn't get to capture it. It's not like I was drafting a lot of Raheem Mostert. But I would be, honestly, I'd be surprised if Mostert had 9 touchdowns this season. I don't want to be surprised, but I would, if you gave me, say, an underdog pick'em of higher, lower 9.5 touchdowns, I would go with fewer than 9.5. But Trav Snow in here at pick 5. Happy to see you, my friend. Demonic Celery, longtime member of the flock, in here at pick 8. I believe that's a new profile pick. I could be wrong. Mark finally in at 6. Happy to see you. Andrew out here at pick 10. Thank you for drafting us. Silent says, I think you bet Achane round 2. So if you look at Achane, I took him in round 3 the last draft. I'm not going to be taking a lot of Devon Achane. Personally, the issue that I'm going to have is Achane was the most efficient running back in the NFL last season, and it wasn't even remotely close. If you look at his yards per carry, if you look at his yards per touch, if Achane were to be able to replicate what he did last season going into the future, Achane would go down as the best running back in NFL history. Now, what is a more likely outcome? Does the efficiency fall off a cliff for Devon Achane, which that's what you typically see with uber efficient seasons off a small sample? Or does Devon Achane become the best running back of all time? The correct answer is the efficiency probably falls off, which is completely fine. We see that all the time with rookies. But the thing is, when you see the efficiency fall off for these rookies, a lot of times what you get with it is you get a bump in volume. And if the bump in, and usually the bump in volume is actually a big enough deal where he's better than he was in year 1. So if Achane, say, just pulling these numbers out my butt, had 100 carries at 8 yards per carry as a rookie, but then in year 2, he has 200 carries, but only 6 yards per carry. Still, you would way rather have the season with more volume. It's also a lot more predictable. But the issue with Achane is they add a running back in the NFL draft this year, Jalen Wright. And on top of it, Achane is so damn small where we've never seen a running back at his size handle 20 touches a game and not get injured. So it's tough with Achane, uber efficient. You would naturally assume the volume goes up in year 2. He is an elite top 5 running back in fantasy, but specifically due to his frame. And it's not like he's small like Tariq Cohen, but's going to have 80 receptions on the season. That's not the type of running back that he is. I think more likely than not, the efficiency falls, the volume goes up a little bit. And I'm okay drafting him round 3 in underdog drafts. I'm not jumping him down with excitement for it. I'm not screaming that he's super overvalued. But I do think with Achane, you have reasons to be excited and reasons to be nervous. Now we go Mike Evans at 13. Do I have Mike Evans ranked over London, Harrison, Adams, Olave, Ayuk, Waddle, Nico? No, I do not. The only reason I'm going Evans here is I think he's about the same as all these other round 2 wide receivers. However, if you look at his ADP, Mike Evans is almost exclusively going to be going at the 2-3 turn. So the amount of teams in this tournament that start off Jahmyr Gibbs, Mike Evans, going to be extremely low when Gibbs exclusively goes at the 1-2 turn. So I just want to be very transparent with everybody here. I don't have Evans ranked over those other guys. Yes, I'm taking him here. I wouldn't do it if it wasn't tournament aspect. We're trying to have a little bit of a unique pairing, but it is what it is. Now, Kate says, did you call an audible and change the thumbnail to Jordan Addison? Thomas may have done that, which if he did, thank you, Thomas. Great call. Is Addison the thumbnail now? I have no idea. Let me get my phone. Karen goes 29. I would have been pumped to get Karen. I don't know. Was Addison the thumbnail? I can look at whatever we downloaded. No, Addison was not the thumbnail. So thank you, Thomas, for switching that. Okay. Nate says, who will be taking number 1 overall in PPR leagues? If it's just a regular redraft league, I'm just going to go Christian McCaffrey. I'm not going to think about it. Because the thing is, in your regular redraft league, if you're just with your college buddies drafting on ESPN, you should be able to find great values at wide receiver in the middle rounds. So to go CMC, even if there's downside for a 28-year-old running back that potentially see a fall off, also, he's Christian McCaffrey. There's a ton of upside. Augustus says, Achane's efficiency is because of an outlier game against the Broncos. Let me go ahead and pull that up, my friend. It's an interesting thing to look at. Because I have not pulled that one game out and seen what the rest of the stats look like for Achane. Let's go Devon Achane game log. I'll pull this up in the live stream for y'all. So playoff game, disgusting, but that was an overall offensive collapse. I don't necessarily know if we want to blame that on Achane. Okay, let's get this up. Let's move this over. So I know I'm probably blinding y'all right now. I get it. Well, let's just go through this together. Achane week 1 carry. Who cares? Week 2 blows up against the Broncos, 203 rushing yards off of 18 carries, averaging 11.3 yards per carry. Obviously, obnoxious. Phenomenal. Was one of the biggest beatdowns the NFL seen in a decade. The next game against the Bills, hell, he averages 12.5 yards per carry, 8 carries, 101 rushing yards. The next game against the Giants, 11 carries, 151 rushing yards, averages almost 14 yards per carry. And then I guess after the injury, yeah, you're at 4.3, 6.7, 3.6, 3.4, 7.6, 5.6 yards per carry. So the second half of the season looks a lot more normal for Devon Achane than what you had at the beginning part of the year. But ultimately, if you look at the total stats, 7.8 yards per carry, not a super efficient receiver in comparison to what he did as a rusher. But yeah, I mean, he did have 37 targets on the season, so I don't want to sit here and act like Achane's not going to catch the ball. My entire point is just at his size, typically like the only guys that you've seen be at the very top of fantasy football have been the like Tariq Cohen types, the Darren Sproles types, the guys that are going to have 80 receptions in a season. Like that's typically what you need at this size. Now, when we go Laporta Allen here at the 3-4 turn, would I recommend most people do this? Hell no. It puts us with only one receiver through the first 4 rounds, puts us in a massive hole. It's probably going to be difficult to get out of it. And because of this, we have no other option, but we have to go wide receiver at the 5-6 turn. It doesn't matter if, I mean, maybe if Josh Jacobs falls to us, I take Josh Jacobs, I cut the live stream and pretend like there was I lost connection. Not going to lie to y'all, that is a possibility. But the vast majority of the time here, we're just going to have to suck it up. We're just going to have to go wide receiver because we're so far behind. Okay. Kate says, besides Addison, is there a player that you can't stop drafting that you think is going to break your heart this year? I think we pulled it up in the last live stream, and Quentin Johnston was like my 5th or 6th most drafted receiver. Which, like I said, in a video, I would never admit that. It's disgusting. I would never recommend my worst. I wouldn't put that on my worst enemy for them to go out there and draft Quentin Johnston that much. Just for whatever reason, I've been a sucker that's been taking him at wide receiver 70 or wherever he's going. And now we're going to go ahead. We will take Reed and Ridley back to back. Don't love the Ridley price tag here for a couple different reasons, but actually do really like Jaden Reed if you're getting him as a low wide receiver 3. Definitely a lot of uncertainty in what the target distribution is going to be in Green Bay this season, but based off what you had with him being a top 24 option as a rookie and the projections still being really in on the Green Bay Packers passing offense this next season, I'm completely fine going through, pulling the trigger on Reed. Ridley's more of a pick that I guess we need a wide receiver, so I will take him. But even if we didn't need a receiver, I would have taken Jaden Reed here. Okay. Henry says, you got lucky getting Reed at 60, though that never happens for me. My guy? It's not luck. Okay. It's called determination. It's called motivation. It's called willpower. It's called skill. You think just to even assume, to even accuse me of being lucky for getting Jaden Reed to fall to us behind ADP. Do you understand how intimidated these people are to draft with me? Dan, Ty Drew Brew, KJ Deuce, when they're on the clock and they see Fantasy Flock behind them, this is them holding their phones. They can't stop shaking, okay? I'm surprised they were able to make a pick in the first place. I'm surprised they didn't shake their phone so much they scrolled down to Rashad Bateman and took Rashad Bateman there. I'm surprised that I didn't get Amari Cooper falling to us at 60. Just if it never happens for you, my friend, you just need to be a better drafter. That's all I got to say to you, all right? See, Demonic Celery out here saying I'm shaking in my boots. Cade says just got Reed in the 17th. Well, yeah, Cade's a freaking beast over here, not going to lie. A fundamental bear. This I could not have said it better. Could not have said it better, my friend. Okay. Now let's move this over. Kamara goes 79. Obviously, we're still trying to hunt for receivers here if we're able to. But it's not like we are just completely screwed at the position. Keon Coleman would be super nice because we have Josh Allen. Demonic Celery here takes him from us. Thank you, my guy, for nothing. Ferguson off the board at 82. One second. Okay, we just auto David Montgomery, not the worst thing in the world. And I guess we are all in on the Detroit Lions. Did not plan on it. Had to step out for a second. I apologize. It's been a very tough day, but it is what it is. We're doing what we can here. We're doing what we can. And I don't know how this works out. I don't know if we can save this. I guess I don't even know if we go Goff at this point, having both Lions running backs and just a random receiver here. Henry says Gibbs Monty had to be rare since Montgomery never falls that far. Definitely rare. I don't know if that is inherently something that we are wanting, though. Okay. Fundamental Bear says, is it stupid to take Gibbs and Montgomery or Achane and Mostert? It's not necessarily stupid because there are unique paths. Say, hypothetically, here I didn't mean to take Montgomery. I don't know if I would have if I was in the room or not, but let's just go through a hypothetical path, right? Let's say Jahmyr Gibbs tweaks an ankle in week 3. This hypothetical world, Jahmyr Gibbs misses weeks 3 through 11. Dave Montgomery dominates during that stretch. Then Jahmyr Gibbs comes back, say week 13, and then by the time we get to weeks 15, 16, 17, Jahmyr Gibbs is the number 1 overall running back in fantasy. If the majority of the Jahmyr Gibbs teams were knocked out of this tournament due to the Gibbs injury, and you were able to sneak a Jahmyr Gibbs team through to the tournament because you had David Montgomery for that stretch, then all of a sudden it could give you a unique opportunity to have leverage over the rest of the field based off that setup. Does that mean you should draft David Montgomery at pick 61 because you took Jahmyr Gibbs? Hell no. Just because there is that unique outcome, it doesn't mean you should be going ahead and reaching dramatically to have backfield teammates. But if, I don't know, Montgomery falls 10 picks past ADP and it's just a natural spot where you get him on a Jahmyr Gibbs team, then yeah, maybe you take him, you mix him in just a bit, just because if that outcome does play out. Okay. Now, Dallas Goedert off the board at pick 104. Vinny says, Best Ball Mania 4 winner was draft position 11. Okay. Dak Prescott goes 105. Here, when we're on the clock at 108, 109, I think Shakir has to be a pick when we're still kind of behind at wide receiver. And I didn't even realize we freaking have Laporta. This is a horrible team. That Montgomery auto pick and then the panic Jameson Williams selections were just straight up bad. We're going to go Shakir. We'll take Pollard. Yeah, we are going to have to draft Jared Goff on this build. It's going to be a team with 5 Lions. This team took 5 Lions within the first, 4 Lions within the first 8 rounds. Definitely not an ideal spot in a large field tournament like this. But real quick, let me go pee. I'll be back in 1 second. God, today's a tough day, ladies and gentlemen. It is a tough, tough day. Probably should not have gone live tonight, but it is what it is. Worst case scenario, y'all see me on the ropes and we light a $5 puppy entry on fire. But NRG says, in the case of Houston, is it reasonable to super stack Mixon, Stroud, Collins, Diggs, Schultz? No. So, I mean, if you think, I'm doing this with Detroit right now, unintentionally, but it's happening. Maybe if you were in like a high stakes underdog tournament where the field's not super massive, but if you think of, say, Mixon, Stroud, Collins, Diggs, Schultz, you're allocating 5 out of the 18 roster spots on your team to one specific offense. Hovering around 30% of your team being one up. The only way it works out is if you have a 3-week stretch in weeks 15, 16, 17, where the Houston Texans put up a total of 150 points. Which, if that happens, then maybe. But yeah, I really don't know if you can be taking more than 4 players in individual offense. And here, of course, I am very much a hypocrite when I'm about to take Jared Goff. And on this team, we are, like I said, I autoed. Okay. Don't scream at me. The Montgomery pick, I don't think was that bad, but the Jameson Williams pick was horrendous. I was a little bit shook up. But we have Gibbs, Montgomery, Jameson, Laporta, and Goff. So we're about to have 5 Detroit Lions on this team. Like I said, not ideal in the least. Okay. Christian said, just realized my most drafted players are Aaron Jones and Drake London. I'm not judging or anything. It's just very interesting. If you're looking at, say, like one of your most drafted guys being a player that goes the 1-2 turn, where Drake London has an ADP of, I want to say, like 14.5. How does that happen? Like, where are you drafting Drake London? For him to be your most drafted guy, because London here goes at 14. I would imagine you have to be taking London at like 10, right? Or maybe you just haven't done that many drafts and you're getting super late picks in the majority of them. Ross Cred says, buy 5 squad. Oh, yes. This is a team that has only the week 5 bye in it. Now, I do want to say, if this was an eliminator draft, if this was a marathon draft, absolutely garbage. Was this our initial plan? No, we had to step out of the room. We got autoed. In a puppy tournament, it's not horrible, even if we sacrifice a bunch of points in week 5. If we can still sneak in to the fantasy football playoff tournament, maybe it provides an opportunity where nobody else had this many players on by week 5 because they were too smart not to do it. Okay. Diego says, do you have a home league with friends or any type of redraft not on Underdog? I have what I think will be the most exciting redraft league this year that we are doing. We're going to make an entire YouTube channel breaking this down. It's going to be specifically with a bunch of other fantasy football YouTubers. It's going to be myself, all the members of flockfantasy.com in terms of all the contributors, the developers, my editor, and we'll also have a special guest there as well. So if you wanted to follow that, which will probably be the league I care most about this season, we're going to make a bunch of content surrounding it as well. It's not going to be like, hey, draft these 5 running backs type content. It's more going to be like the league on FX. It's going to be like entertaining, just kind of more so behind the scenes. It's going to be called the Flock League, and I just spammed the link in the live chat if you were interested in it. Okay. Timothy says, have you noticed that Harrison's the only rookie with the face picture right now? Very interesting. Like, I would assume Underdog would be very, of course, I'm not a developer. I have no freaking idea. But I assume it would be very easy to just load up pictures of these guys. Waffle Doggo says, I'm stoked for the Flock League. Can't wait to watch. Appreciate you, my friend. And on note with the Flock League, set in stone, August 22nd, so about a month from now, Austin, Texas, we are going to have our meetup. Looks like we're narrowing in our brewery. We'll get you more details soon. They'll have food. They'll have drinks. We're going to do like a big, cool live event there. We are going to sell tickets. They're going to be maybe like $10. I just need to know how many people are going to go because the max capacity is 66. But there should already be a bunch of fantasy football YouTubers there. So in terms of like the amount of like listeners that can come out, I think we're going to have 50 spots available for y'all. So be on the lookout. I will make ticket announcements. Like I said, it'll probably be $10. You're going to get a free shirt. You're going to get a free hat. I'm losing money on this thing. I just want to hang out with y'all. I'm not trying to make any money. I promise you that. And yeah, I just want y'all there. So we're going to go ahead. We will take Ty Chandler, 156. We need a running back that's not on a week 5 bye. After that, I have no idea who we want to take. It's going to be a team that takes 5 running backs. Honestly, you're probably going to take a bunch of receivers, so who cares? Just take Demario Douglas, cry a little bit, and move on. Okay, couple different things. One, Sharney says, is Gibbs a reach at 8? Hope all is well, my friend. Appreciate you. In underdog drafts, yes, Gibbs is going to be a reach at 8 just because you can get very strong running back values later on. So I'd way rather have someone like A.J. Brown or Puka. I'd be fine taking Gibbs over Wilson, though. In your regular redraft league where you should be able to find wide receiver values later, then honestly, no. I think you can take Gibbs at 8 if you want to. HM says, Mason, can 4 running backs work? Taylor, White, Montgomery, Mostert. First 5, Hill, Evans, Hopkins, Lockett, Judy. If you were going McBride, Bowers, I think you're much better off taking the 5th running back rather than the 3rd tight ends. I think 4 running backs can work, but if you are going to go 4 RBs, I think you need to go more aggressive than Taylor, White, Montgomery, Mostert. I don't think that group of 4 running backs can work. I think that group of running backs could work if you took a 5th, and if you already have McBride and Brock Bowers, I don't think you need a 3rd tight end. I'd rather just go with the 5th running back. Let's see. Luke says, couldn't make it last year, but I've been wanting to visit Austin. Well, my guy, now is the perfect time for you. Perfect time for you to make it to Austin, August 22nd. Hey, maybe we do the live draft for that league there. We haven't decided. Maybe we do it the night before and bring the draft board. We'll figure it out. Isaac says, how well did you do in drafts this past season? Sadly, I did not win a single underdog tournament. I don't even think I got inside the top 10 in a single underdog tournament. I did not draft Kyron. I did not draft Puka. I did not draft Laporta. GG's. Hopefully this year we can take a couple more down. Here we still need a tight end. We're probably only going to take one tight end when we have one more tight end when we have Laporta. We're going to take one more running back, 2 more receivers, probably. It's probably going to actually, I don't know, maybe we go with the 6th running back with the only running back not on a week 5 bye right now is Ty Chandler. I don't know. We know we need another receiver. We know we need another tight end. And then we know we need another running back. And then between the 6th RB, the 9th receiver, the 3rd tight end, I think we can go kind of anywhere. I was waiting until this guy got down very late. I'm not going to take Dobbins because Dobbins is week 5 bye. We already have too many guys with a week 5 bye. I think we'll go Bateman here at wide receiver. And then maybe Sanat at tight ends. Because just we know we need a tight end. And yeah, there are running backs that I like at the 17-18 turn. But let me show the strap board off. Super tough day today. I think we're probably just going to call it here. But thank you. I could not appreciate y'all hanging out with me any more than y'all do. So thank you so much for everything. Yeah. Thank you. Really do appreciate you, ladies and gentlemen. And really hope we get to see you out with live stream tomorrow.